Hey everyone, welcome to Real Talk, episode 45. I'm Todd, this is AJ.
Yo!
And we're back.
We are back every single week for your enjoyment.
And notice how unhappy he was about it. I love it. So anyway, we are really excited to be back. What is Real Talk? Real Talk's an opportunity to talk about God, life, the Bible, and get real.
That's right.
And by that, we just mean talk about things that you may be uncomfortable to talk about or ask in church or, in your day-to-day life, and we understand that. So that's part of it, the questions part. The other part is just letting you guys in on conversations we have.
Absolutely.
As we try to figure out what it is to be, a Christian and a man in this world and live it out. And yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. So if it's your first time, that's what we're all about. Up above, you'll see two links. The first link is www.theremnant.life/real-talk. You can tell I'm used to saying that. If you click that link, it's going to pull up a form fillable box. Tippity tap, that's you typing. Hit submit. It goes into our database completely anonymously. Couldn't find you if we tried.
Nope.
And we've tried.
All the time.
The second link is www.theremnant.life/give. You can pull that up from your phone or your computer, and it's an opportunity for you to join our ministry financially. If this has blessed you, particularly if you're not, you don't attend the church that sponsors The Remnant,
Yep.
It's a chance for you to say, I believe this is important, this is encouraging, I'd love to see it continue. Any amount is great, $2, whatever the Lord's called you, if you feel led to give. It's completely tax deductible. You'll hit the drop-down box, go to Real Talk, and that will be that. Other than that, like I said, this is the 45th episode of Real Talk web series. We have really two branches of Real Talk. One is a web series that is released every Tuesday.
That's right.
It's pre-recorded and more nuts and bolts down to really talking about life. And then on Thursdays, we have Real Talk Live on Facebook, which is, honestly, I can't really describe it except a wild, wild ride. So that drops every Thursday at 9 p.m.
That's right. Yeah,
We have a lot of different segments.
Oh, yeah. It gets fun. I think what's interesting about, like you said a second ago, 45 episodes in, man, it's wild to think just how many hours have been put into everything, right?
Yeah.
Man.
I actually thought about the other day how many total hours there are.
Even in just with the filming itself, including live, because that's adding at least 2 hours. Yeah. Every time. So what a crazy ride it's been, but it's such a huge blessing, and man, just super surreal to be here 45 episodes in every week, So super cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's really all the business part of it.
Yeah.
I'd like to start out the web series episodes with really just us kind of catching up on our week, which oftentimes leads to good discussion or what God's teaching us. This leads me to, which we're going to try to do today, we didn't get to, but we're going to. We really want to change the set. If you go watch our earlier episodes, we were still learning, so quality and stuff.
Yes, was not quite there.
But the feel of it is something we kind of want to get back to when we were facing each other and really having a discussion. Because believe it or not, guys, when we're looking at you like this is great for live. But people have teased us because they're like, what are you guys looking at or thinking about when the other person's talking? Because where are we supposed to look?
Right, because I'm looking over here.
If I do this,
or over
that's
here.
Weird.
Yeah, right.
So, we want to get back to that. I'm pretty excited about that.
Me too.
We're also still figuring out our lighting. I know we are definitely better, but pretty excited. We would expect that by next episode, 46, that you'll see an even...
Looking for more improvement. Absolutely.
Yeah, and even a bigger difference because, we're getting some new lights, et cetera. So we're pretty excited.
Absolutely.
Getting the studio sort of reformatted or...
Yeah, man. Got a lot going on.
Yeah, it's exciting times.
Yeah.
So anyway, that leads us to... Oh, also, forgot. We want to do... intern Clint better get on this. But we need to get these uploaded as a podcast because that's what we're looking to do. They'll be on every podcast...
Podcasting.
What are those called? Device or software?
A platform.
Nice, all right. Every podcast platform it's going to be on, so that's pretty exciting for us.
It's super surreal.
So I know a lot of you listen to it as a podcast anyway, so this might even be more convenient for you.
That's right.
So now, no more jokes, no more tricks. Well, I can't say the jokes are over. But how's your week been, dude?
Been really solid. So I had a realization. We had a really good conversation. A lot of the time, we like to get our thoughts and just talk about life. A lot of the time, we go out to lunch. just kind of talk about life and whatnot, get caught up on everything. And so I had a really good conversation with you and a couple other people, including intern Clint, talking about how easy it is to have things.
That was an adventure, huh?
So
welcome to Real Talk. So you're having a good discussion.
That's right, having a good discussion. And what I love about these discussions, and I took a couple things from a discussion we had, which was, it's so easy to just be blind to certain aspects of your life. Like, you don't even realize things you might be doing, which is crazy. So, like, for me, like you guys mentioned, I'm on my phone a lot. And honestly, like, I think I knew I was on my phone a lot, but I didn't realize how crazy it was. And then you mentioned how, man, like, you may not be as, interactive with people because you're just in this weird ball of anxiety from your phone. And I was like, dang. So, like, it's so interesting how you can go for so long without even realizing that you're in something like that. And sometimes, and I think that's why it's so good for people to be honest with each other, right? Like, because I'm sure it could have been just as easy to just, like, for example, like you, like, it could have been just as easy to not say anything, right? And just let it go. But instead, you're like, you know what, this time I'm actually going to tell him something and let him know. And boom, I didn't even know. So it's so cool how that works. And it's so interesting because you can take that mindset and that process from the Bible too. The Bible talks about that. So it's super cool. And, like, so I guess for me, I just want to be better in that. And it's funny because I probably wouldn't have even thought about it. So I guess to encourage anybody watching, like, if you notice things are different about somebody, or you notice that, like, man, like they could be struggling with this, they may not even know it, and you had that feeling, or like it's okay to mention it to them, because they may need that. Now I can't always guarantee you the reaction will be the best, because that's another thing I was going to point out, is it's so easy for when people are wanting to kind of sharpen you, that it's so easy to put up a wall, or get defensive or whatever. It's interesting. So
yeah, I think a couple things from what you said are pretty. One is that's so true, and I'm applying it to life in general. There's so many things that before you know it, it's sort of, you wake up and realize, what am I doing? Like, what's happening? And sometimes it's sin stuff, and sometimes it's just stuff like that where it's like, like, I didn't even notice that. I think of anxiety a lot. Yeah. People don't realize how much they're living out of that, including myself, at times.
Absolutely.
I don't feel anxious until someone's like, what's going on, for instance. So that's the other. One thing is, and you kind of touched on this. So a lot of times there's a thin line between, for most people, there seems to be a thin line between tearing someone down and sharing something that maybe isn't great. So for instance, some people, like, someone could have said to you, man, you're on your phone all the time, and it felt like an attack. Maybe that's on the person.
Right.
Maybe that's them being offended. But to you, what made it feel like that was coming out of a place of love and not a place of condemnation?
So,
like, what do you think the difference is there?
A lot of it is just, I think you kind of touched on a little bit, was just the way they present it. Like, a lot of the time for me personally, like, I can tell if someone's, like, I can feel through their tone, or their body language. Like, I can tell when they're really caring, if they're just trying to attack me, right? And also just knowing people's hearts, like, understanding where they are, and that comes with developing relationships. But, like, yeah. So for me, it's a lot of it is just tone, and, like, also how they wrap, how they go about the conversation, where it's going. Are they changing your name? Or are they,
that's what I was thinking too.
Like, are they changing your name? Like you are, a dummy, or you are
a liar,
whatever. Right? If they're changing my name, then that to me that feels like an attack. But if they're just saying, well, you are acting like this, or you're doing, you are doing this, then no, it's not an attack. I can usually process that.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I like the way you said that. I agree. And I feel like it's the same for me. I think when someone comes to me, this is a strange thing. Those that know me well and really know me, I think can know this. I'm pretty talked about this a few weeks ago, I almost have an overactive guilt complex at times.
Yeah.
But because of that, I want to make things right. And if I hurt someone, I've worked really hard at I'm not saying I never am, but not being defensive and hearing them, because regardless if my intention was to hurt someone, for instance, with the behavior I did, the fact that most of the time they're not making up the fact that hurts them. So one of the things that really helps me hear people, so I think about the times that I don't hear it as well versus the times I do, or the times I want to fight back against what they're saying. And it goes exactly what you said. There's a difference between saying you did this action, I'm sure you didn't mean to, maybe even, but you did this action, it hurts me. Okay, like I care about that, versus you did this for this reason. You don't care. You know, a lot of times we start off conversations like that. So, you know, if AJ hurts me, a lot of times I'll come up and maybe I'll say, and you guys can ask yourselves if this happens, maybe you're guilty of this. It's a pattern people are in. So I come up to you and you, let's say you blew me off. Mm-hmm. I don't know. You didn't respond to a text, right? So I come up to you. I don't know. That's a common modern one. And I say, you don't care about me, man. You always ignore my text. You ignore my text today. You don't care. Immediately what I've done is name you, tell you what you did, or tell you your motive behind it. So not only, like, what are you supposed to do with that? It's like a machine gun. At that point, I feel like I'm in a courtroom getting grilled by an attorney. So now I've got to prove my innocence versus coming to someone and saying, so let's say the same situation. Hey, man, it felt like you were ignoring my text. Is that true? Right. Because when that happens, sometimes it makes me feel like you don't care. I'm sure that's not
Huge
true.
Difference.
Yeah, right? Like, one is I'm having to defend and fight. It's like a boxing match. Like, that's not who I am. So I got to spend half the conversation telling you something that the only person that knows is me. I do care.
Right.
And then I haven't even addressed your actual hurt yet. And so it becomes this weird cycle, I think. So I think that's really good that you said the name thing, because I think that's probably
absolutely. Right. I think of it like, the way I view it like is, for example, like the difference between if someone says you are a dummy compared to you're acting like a dummy.
Yes.
Like such a huge difference, and like I think people don't tend to realize that, and it's man.
It's a subtle difference, but if you think about yourselves, the times when people can say something and you can hear it versus times they say it and you don't. Now, some of you out there, if you're really honest, you're just easily offended and you can't hear anything. Yeah. But that's not always the case. Unrelated, my voice is still weird. I apologize. I'm real nasally because I'm on day 5.
5 or 6, I think.
Of my antibiotic.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of info for them. So a sinus infection, it's getting better, but I hate the fact that I can hear it vibrating in my head. You know what I mean? Like I know it sounds nasally. Ugh. So it annoyed me. Anyway, that's good stuff, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the rest of the week's been good. Like you said, just continual progress. I know we've had some pretty good discussions lately just about my life, because I know a lot of the time I can tend to feel not feel. I guess I just get into this weird place of not like sharing as much about my life, or like not sharing my feelings for a while. And I don't know why I do that, but I do. I think it's part of my guilt complex of just wanting to always listen instead of like tell people about my own life. So we've had some good talks about like me. And a big thing for me is just remembering, that people believe in me and all these things, because I know for me, I can take, corrective action sometimes as punishment, when, punishment is, it's not, people aren't trying to punish me because they want to make me better. And that can quickly put me in a weird box, and then I can look shut down or sad or whatever, and like, just interesting. So trying to process through just all that too. Excuse me. It's been interesting so far, but I don't think I have a clear, or at least I don't remember right now as I'm speaking to you guys. I don't really have a clear-cut answer, but it was a really good discussion and just processing through that. And I know I'm probably not alone in that. I know a lot of people can feel that way. So yeah,
it's good.
How's your week been?
I almost forgot again. If you watch the last, I don't know. I get confused sometimes. We joke about this. What I've talked about here versus what I've talked about at church or with friends, or just one-on-one. I've been in this place lately where I think it all kind of connects. One would be the idea that we talked about this in the message Sunday, the week before, and the idea of that it's not supposed to be so heavy. When Jesus says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. For my yoke is easy, my burden is light." And we just kind of go, "Oh, that's nice of you to say, Jesus. Not realistic and not true, but thank you for saying that." Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I think it makes me sad that a lot of Christians feel like they can't be themselves around other Christians at church, or they feel this heavy weight or this anxiety about trying to earn and keep. And I'm guilty of that. And I'm talking about myself of you shouldn't feel sometimes that heavy. So the idea of who I am, and also fear, how fear, one of our questions sort of touches on the idea of stress, but there's so much anxiety. We talk about that in our church. Almost that word annoys me now. Not that people are anxious, so please hear me on that, but we're all anxious and stressed. And when I really get to the root of it when we talk to people, because I get a chance to talk to a lot of people, is that it is about, it's fear. It's fear of something. So fear of being found out, to be less than perfect. Fear of people leaving. Fear of failure. Fear of something. And it so often seems to revolve around identity. I'm scared that people are going to find me out. And so that's the one side that happens naturally. Yeah. Find me out, right? Whatever that is. And then I get so frustrated when I think about people who intentionally cause fear to feel in control. So if I can make you afraid all the time, we talked about this with the phone. There's people who are like, if you don't answer me, you don't love me. And then they try to control you that way. And they put that on you instead of approaching it like just differently. It kind of goes in with what you said. It causes fear. And when you make someone afraid, you're able to control them. Yeah. Right? You can, because you can whip them with fear. And then that ties back into Christianity and how sometimes we've created this religion based around fear. When I think about the Bible saying that perfect love casts out all fear. There is no fear in love, for perfect fear. There is no fear in love, because perfect love casts out all fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears has not been perfected in love. And so when I think of myself when I'm fearful, right, of whatever, at the end of the day, I feel like I must not, it does always go back to trusting God and trusting that, let's say that the worst happens and people turn on me, or people do those fears that we have. People find me out and they don't want me anymore. I'm not perfect. Right. They leave me. They try to destroy me, which happens. Like that God is enough, that the Father is enough, that He said that the burdens are still light. Yes, there's trials and tribulations, but somehow those two things are true. That as I walk, because if you think about it, trials and tribulations are external. They're like, I'm walking down a muddy path. The muddy path is the trial. Versus I'm walking down a road and I have 50 pounds of weight on my back. That's a situation. That's a reality I live in, right? Yeah. One is internal. I'm carrying this weight. So if I carry this, I'm going to have muddy roads anyway. That's right. How much harder is it if I'm carrying 50 pounds of weight? Versus when Jesus said, listen, I'm going to take care of you. That's right. All of these things. So that's good, man. I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to not take 20 minutes. So I wrestle with a lot of that, and I can feel it, man. These moments of freedom, these moments where I'm not afraid. And I guess what scares me is that to fully cast off the fear, I have to be willing to accept that what I'm afraid of could happen. Yeah. Does that make sense? Because that's the only way to take the power from it. Okay, let's say it's a person, right? We joke. It's not always, but like that's a great example. If you don't respond to my text, you don't love me, and it could be a friend or whatever. And I'm not going to be your friend, or I'm not going to be in a relationship with you anymore. And I have to test that. I have to say, okay, well, I hope that's not the case, and they might leave, and you have to deal with that and know that in the midst of that pain, in the midst of that hurt or whatever else, that God is going to get you through. That's right. And that's where this religion, this faith, dude, and we've talked about this probably for a month, about it being real. That is to me where do I believe it? Like, because the truth is, when I allow fear to dictate my actions, I'm not really showing faith at all. And that sounds such a simple thought until maybe everyone else is like, yeah, duh. But to me, when it stops becoming just something we say, like when fear does this, it's you're living out of your faith. And I actually apply that to my life. That is eye-opening.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Absolutely. It's very convicting, and I think, man, it's so good because this faith, man, like you said, it's all based on love and, talks about fear, living in fear means you haven't been perfected in love. And it's just like, man, it's so convicting because, even for me personally, I'm a very fearful person. And a lot of the time I'm so fearful, I don't even know I'm fearful, Like it's so ingrained in me sometimes that I'm going about life going, I think I'm doing all right. And then like, no.
That's the thing. Fear is such it's almost, this sounds, I'm a picture guy in my head. So it's like a creeping shadow that before you know it is just covering you and you don't even know it because it happens so gradually. And then you're like, why am I shivering all the time? Why am I this? It's like, I'm not in the light. Like I'm in this, fear, that verse.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like a squeaky shoe. You hear that too?
Dude. it's so scary. And like, oh man, it's like,
yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Like that verse we say all the time, and you go, man, he was telling us even then, like, hey, if you're not careful, that shadow, man, that shadow, that fear, that all that stuff's going to creep over you. And you have to remember when that comes, because it says, oh, I walk. I'm in there. I have to know that you, my shepherd, comfort me. Gosh, all of those things.
Good, that is so good.
It's a fascinating thing in general.
Yeah, man. And dude, that's the thing. Like, man, when I sit and I think, like, when I think of my life, right? Like, I think of one thing I really struggle with is like the results, right? Like when I think of like just like the results of life, like I think like, okay, all this media, for example, just to use an example real quick, like we have all this stuff that we do, and a lot of it when it comes to like identity, right? Like I tend to put a lot of my identity in things, or I tend to put my identity in my ability to, to make people feel like I'm doing a good job or whatever, without even noticing half the time, because then I live so much of my life in the constant fear. And I think we talked about this from like, I have to do good. And if I don't, then they're disappointed, or, I'm not good enough. And then all of a sudden, happens? That's right. Then you snowball and you get into this fearful aspect of like, you're constantly running around like, I need to make this perfect. And when it's not perfect, then it's not enough. And then you're constantly not like, you don't think it's always negative. Even when something goes well, it's still negative in a way because you still think next time something's going to happen.
You set the bar. Like, I got by this time. That's like, right. I just made it.
Yeah. Yep, I just made it, but tomorrow, probably not, or whatever. Like, and it's so scary because it's so easy to slip into. And, like, and then we talk about identity more, like I don't know who I am sometimes when I get in these kind of modes, these fearful modes. I don't know who I am because I can take who I used to be before I knew Christ, and then I can take who I am now, and I see similarities in them, and then that makes me already feel like I'm not doing something right, And I've talked about this a long time ago, and it's still something I still struggle with to this day, is like the idea that I just can't, I can't let go of that old me, at least fully, because I feel like if I do, like, I don't know who I'm going to be anymore, I think I've told you, like, sometimes I just don't know how to act. I think I've said that before, like, in certain situations. I don't know how to be me. And it's so interesting.
But doesn't that go back to the weight? Like, it's not supposed to be that way. What do you mean? Like, and I'm not coming at you because I'm talking to myself. Like, what do you mean you don't know how to be you? You know who you are.
It's so weird.
But there's this lie in your head that tells you don't.
Yeah, exactly. Like, fear has put this layer over me that's like, you don't know who you are. And then you're like, I don't know who I am. And then like,
I know exactly what you mean.
And before you know it, you're like, I'm just sitting here not talking to people, or I'm not doing this or that or whatever. And like, people are like, what's wrong? I'm like, oh, I'm fine. It's just a weird thing, man. So Yeah.
And so to leave you guys, if you feel that way, with, because I don't always just want to leave you with good questions, and you may have thoughts too. We'd love to hear them down below, or at the link above. But one of the things that I'm leaning to is, one, I don't know, you have to do it. We so often think that you have to feel it to live it out. And so we wait to feel it. And that's why we never move past something, because we're waiting to feel it.
It's true, man.
Instead of going, I have to walk through this valley, or I have to throw this weight off. And I'm telling you, sometimes when I try to explain this to people, I feel like it's not resonating, probably because I don't know how to get all this out here. But I'm telling you, I can feel the moment, and it's so crazy. This is creepy. I can choose whether to lay that weight off or not. True. But in laying the weight off, I'm giving up control, and that scares me. Right? So, for instance, what do I mean by that? Go back to the fear. So this situation happens. Relationships are one for a lot of people, or money, or finances, whatever. If I'm worrying about it, for some odd reason, worry makes us think we have control. I don't understand it, but it does, right? If I'm thinking about it, being paranoid about it, I'm not surprised. So I can choose to say, nope. And I can, right now I'm doing it. I'm like, but then that fear creeps in of, oh yeah, well, this is going to happen. Remember, this is going to happen. This could happen. And you're like, you're right. Let me put it back on. That way I'm not surprised. So we have to choose to literally do what Jesus says. Come to him with it. What does that mean? It means in prayer. It means being in his word.
Absolutely.
It means, letting go.
That's right.
This word keeps coming to mind. And for a fighter like me, this is really hard. Surrender. Surrendering to Jesus.
That's right.
Saying, fine. Like,
laying it down, man.
I trust you. So that's
right.
Anyway, that's where I've been. And, so two things I would say. One, I want to live out of that and not feel that weight. And I want to live out of that. The other part is me. What am I doing to contribute to the culture of fear and weight for people? I don't want to control through fear. I don't want to put weight on people's backs. Jesus said when he's talking to the Pharisees, interesting, is one of the words he says. Now, remember earlier, he said, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, I'll give you rest. When he's tearing into the Pharisees, he says, you put weights on people's backs and don't lift a finger to tell them how to get them off.
That's right.
And that's such a powerful statement to me. I don't want him to say that to me. And, if you're out there and you, in your anxiety, try to control people through fear, that's what you're doing. You're putting weights on people's back. So, anyway, good stuff.
I think of, fear, right? We mentioned fear, and then you mentioned, taking fear, and you have that moment of being able to like worry or whatever, taking it off and putting it back on. I think a big reason why people do that is because I think, and this includes me sometimes, I think we have a really hard time separating the fact between action and fear. I feel like people I feel like they get stuck in this weird place of, I can only be in action when I'm in that fear, or when I'm, or if I'm worrying about it, and that's when I do something, I can't separate it.
Yeah, that's good too, actually.
Yeah, because they're like, okay, because I feel like people, and including myself sometimes, if I try to take this thing, like you said, money, whatever it is, and I go, okay, I'm gonna put it away, and then a lot of people, I think they think, then I'm not gonna do anything about it. But the only way they're going to do something about it is if they put it back on, because I'm like, okay, it's on my mind, I'm worried about it.
So that's an action that I can do in a weird, creepy way.
Yeah,
you're right. I'm out of control, but I can control whether I'm obsessing over it in a way too, right?
Yeah, because I think a lot of people think not worrying about something is just stuffing it away and literally not doing anything. Because I can feel that way sometimes. I can feel like that's the only way.
I think you control what you can control, but not worrying is not controlling things you can't control. I can't control. Okay, so here, being transparent. 7 years ago, I've sinned 100 times. So 7 years ago, I had kind of a big falling in my personal life. Okay, failing, let a lot of people down, let myself down, really set my life back. A couple things I've learned from this. So let me tie it to yours first, and I'll come back.
Yeah.
I live my life constantly 7 years later. 7 years, 6.5, almost 7 years later. Constantly worried about whether people are going to continue to view me as what I've done. And so it controls me. So I meet someone, I'm like, what are they thinking? Or if I'm not in the right place, or this person said this, because sometimes they do. Sometimes people still say things, or people will say stuff about our church because I'm here. Well, he's this, whatever. And it's like, man. So a lot of times I can worry about that when the reality is I cannot control that. I can't control whether Bob, the guy I meet, or Bob, the pastor of the church in town, is trashing me. Trashing this church, is saying that I'm this, is calling me that. I literally can't control it, right? Like I can't. But sometimes I will worry about it like I can control it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if I do this better, if I do this, if I can prove to them. Well, the truth is most of those people don't believe in repentance, restoration, forgiveness, reconciliation anyway. So nothing I do is going to earn it. So why do I worry about it? But I do. Okay. Right. So for me, letting go of the weight in that case is I do need to live my life. And I've learned that of character and all these other things. And when I just try to live a life of goodness and honesty and follow Jesus. And, if people are going to look for cracks in me, they're going to find them. But I can't worry about that. So controlling what I control is saying, I'm going to continue to do what God's asked me to do, even if people doubt me.
That's good.
Right? But I don't have to worry about whether they believe I'm doing what God's asked me. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I got to control my part. I think this is what you're saying. Like, because sometimes people are like, they could say, well, since I can't control that, I just give up. Mm-hmm. That's not worrying about it. Well, that's not true. Yep. So you do your part. But I do think God's saying, listen, I'm God, you're not.
Yep.
I'm going to handle those people.
That's good.
Some of them won't. They have free will. So for me, and I think that ties right along with what you're saying. I think that's a perfect example of a situation that I sometimes can slip into trying to control things there's no point in controlling. Carry a weight that I cannot do anything about unless I give it to Jesus.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. But that thing too, don't want to change the subject too much, but that very topic has taught me so much about the kingdom of God, because I had areas in my life and in my heart that I thought like I knew what I've always said, man, I believe God has called me to just have ministry of grace, that people need to understand his grace. When they understand his grace, then they can really grow. But I thought I knew what grace was until I was in a place when I really needed it. And so it has radically changed the way I view people, their actions. And here's the twisted, weird part, dude. And I think I get scared about it. It's like what I've ever understood to truly separate a person's actions from their heart, were it not for the hurt and the destruction and all of the stuff that's come from my situation, right. that I want to be loving and kind and grace-filled towards people because I didn't always get that. And it's kind of an aside, but since I brought that up,
sure,
we can use those things that happen in our life to teach that God. I mean, isn't that crazy that God took this hurtful thing to me, and it still hurts when people think that. But He said, "But I'm going to show you how to love in an even deeper way now, because I promise you that's the truth, right? I just, me, I just see people, differently, because I know people when they give into fear." And anxiety can end up living out of things that's not who they are.
You're right.
So, which ties all the way back to the effects of fear and stuff, because it can make us do and act in ways that is not our real heart, which Paul talks about in Romans 7. I do what I don't want to do and don't do what I want to do. If I do what I don't want to do, then it's not me doing it. It's the sin within me. That sounds like a tongue twister. Anyway, sorry to ramble, but this is good stuff, man.
I love this so much. This is...
Intern Clint actually told us, he gave me the sign to not even do questions today. We'll do catch up because he said this is good.
All right.
And Intern Clint, he's cold-blooded when it comes to content. So
he's cold-blooded.
If Intern Clint says we don't, I don't know what you think, but it probably
that's fine.
So I guess that's it. We have some questions. We'll probably we'll answer these during the live ones, etc.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
But keep asking them, because honestly, we're running out anyway. After these today, we'd have been out again.
Wow.
You guys, if you have any questions or topics you'd love us to discuss, or maybe share something like we did that we can enter into a discussion with you.
Absolutely.
You can click the link above, and there isn't really, I don't believe there's really a character limit to that thing.
Not that I know of.
So you can type your situation, your topic, and we would love to discuss that with you or speak into it. Maybe you're going through a tough time. Maybe you've messed up and you feel alone, and you need someone to tell you whether you are what your sin was. And we want to tell you that you're not, and that God can accept you, restore you, and that He loves you right where you're at, even if a light falls. So anyway, yeah, man, fill those out. We would love to hear from you guys and get your hearts. Or comment below. Yes, if this encourages you, if you guys like when we kind of go deeper into topics, let us know below. If you like questions, you can let us know that too. But do you have anything else?
Just thank you guys so much. Kind of like what Todd was saying, we'll cover these during live. So make sure you tune in this Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our Facebook page for Real Talk Live. And you guys will hear some answers for some of this stuff. And like you said, please ask questions. If you enjoy Real Talk, a big part of this is, kind of tapping into your guys' lives with you, asking us the questions or topics so then we can continue to, just kind of do this show. So we really need that from you guys. So if you guys have anything, please go to the link. Like one more time, it's www.theremnant.live/real-talk. And also take a moment, if this has blessed you in any way since the beginning or till now, if you're a new viewer, old viewer, whatever, please take just a moment to think about donating. I know we mentioned it earlier, but that link is www.theremnant.live/give. Just make sure you click the Real Talk option, and just like you said, $1, $2, it all goes a long way, because we do a lot of silly things on live, especially with food and all these things, and unfortunately it costs money, so we need it. So thank you guys. I love you so much.
Yeah, we really appreciate that. And I know a lot of people, even last week on live, were asking us about when Real Talk on the Road was going to happen, which we want to do, but that's going to take funds for that. So consider that. Also, if you're a person, we don't talk about this a lot, but especially if it's something that we believe in, we're definitely willing to give you a shout out on here in one of our episodes. So like a sort of a sponsorship, feel free if you're a business owner or a ministry, anything like that. We're all about doing that.
Absolutely.
Finally, I want to leave you with a thought that kind of came. Guys, it's I don't think we've really done this, but before we close up, I'm gonna leave you with a couple thoughts for you to wrestle with during a week. How far does grace go? What does God forgive? How far did what Jesus do on the cross really go? And how radical is your forgiveness and your willingness to accept that God's use of someone, God's restoration, God's belief in someone is greater than their mistakes? It's not just about me. That's about people. Man, I really just think that in order to grow, we have to let go of this idea that God needs our help to punish. He doesn't need our help. In fact, He is the judge. Our job is to love and restore and walk with. And that doesn't mean sin's not serious, but it does mean that He'll handle that. And certainly there are times, and a person's response to their sin will show their heart. They don't, so just consider that. What is that like? You don't need to even comment. If you want to, feel free below, but consider that in your own life and be prayerful about that, because in order for us to change a culture that seems to glorify the punishment of sin, and bring it back to the fact that Jesus has taken the punishment of sin, we really got to all add to that.
That's right.
So anyway, we appreciate you guys so much. We look forward to seeing you guys this Thursday at 9 p.m. for Real Talk Live. And tune in next week when we go, once again, coming back at you with episode 46.
Or 6.
Please pray for us. Know that we're praying for you. And we hope you guys have a great day, and God bless you.